Yeah, it's just gone past 5 o'clock Central African time. A very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for joining us. You're watching Your Story on SA Today. I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Balisa Shibise. Very good afternoon indeed. Welcome to the final leg of the show here on the SABC News channel, independent and impartial.
All right, we start in Europe. European Union leaders have granted the UK a 6-month extension to Brexit after late-night talks in Brussels. The new deadline, the 31st of October, averts the prospects of the UK having to leave the EU without a deal on Friday, as the MPs are still deadlocked over a deal. European Council President Donald Tusk said that in his message, he said to British friends, please do not waste this time. Theresa May, who had wanted a shorter delay, said that the UK will still aim to leave the EU as soon as possible. The UK must now hold European elections in May or leave on the 1st of June without a deal. Helping us to unpack what's been happening, we're now joined by a correspondent in Brussels, Briohny Williams. Briohny, thanks very much indeed for joining us. So this Brexit story taking another turn. The Europeans are giving the UK until 31 October.
Yes, it's a bit of a sense of deja vu here in Brussels, because this is the second time that Theresa May has asked for an extension. Now, this time around, she asked for an extension till June the 30th. And what happened in the discussions last night is that there were a majority of leaders who were actually backing a plan put forward by Donald Tusk, the European Council President, to give the UK an extension of up to a year, with the possible option that the UK could depart if a withdrawal agreement was arranged. But we've heard that President Macron, so the French president, said, you know what, I think we should cut this shorter. He wants to keep the pressure on Theresa May to get a deal passed in the UK. He said in the run-up to this summit that he doesn't want to be held hostage by UK politics, because obviously whilst all these EU leaders and EU councils and commissions are talking about Brexit, they're taking their eye off perhaps domestic politics that they should be dealing with, or European policy that they should be talking about. So this extension, yes, it's been given, but really I think the rhetoric coming out of Brussels now is that the leaders are frustrated. They are now just have to kind of sit back and see what happens in the UK.
And so, as you said, they've extended beyond what they would have offered her. So they probably don't have a lot of faith that the British Parliament can actually agree. I mean, they've had a number of years already, and what we've been seeing in the past few weeks is that they really are not coming together at all. So people might be asking, what's going to be different in 6 months' time, 7 months' time?
Well, yes, and quite frankly, coming into these talks, people were asking, well, what's different from when you asked for the first extension back in March? So, and I think you're dead right. You know, we've got polar opposites politically in the UK, and what's come out of this meeting is that, you know, she's asked for the extension up until June the 30th and said, you know what, we probably don't think you can do it, so we're going to give you a little bit longer. Because as you mentioned earlier, I think it's fair to say politicians on both sides of the channel are trying to avoid this no-deal scenario. So that's the UK leaving the EU with no deal in place, which would cause a lot of problems for the ports in Europe, and obviously on the Isle of Ireland, where there's a land border. So that's essentially what the EU leaders are trying to avoid. We had Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, in the run-up to these talks, saying that she wanted to work down to the wire to try and avoid a no-deal Brexit. So yes, they have given them more time to try and get a deal in place, but because we have that veto by Emmanuel Macron, I think that's going to keep the pressure on Theresa May, even though she herself has said that she wants to do this as quick as possible. We have heard that before.
And I suppose that the pressure is on to get something done quickly, because those European parliamentary elections, the UK doesn't want to be part of that. But if they don't have a deal, this could just be another complication.
You're totally right. After the summit, Theresa May said that she regrets that she hasn't been able to take the UK out of the EU. She's even gone back to London today and said that she regrets that she's in this position because she has tried to pass that deal back in London, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and it's still not got anywhere. So that's why there really is this pressure now to try and avoid being part of those EU parliamentary elections, because that could change the political landscape. We could have candidates that are coming in that have a completely different view on where Brexit should be going. So Theresa May will want to try and avoid what could be just another political layer of catastrophe, because it seems like we've already opened Pandora's box at the moment, but there could be more surprises to come if she has to deal with all that in, weeks to come.
All right, so Briohny Williams, thanks very much indeed for joining us and giving us that update. That's our correspondent there in Brussels. The European Union has given the UK 7 months to sort out their problems. The UK wants to come out by May so that they don't have to deal with the European parliamentary elections, but also to get a deal so that they can finally do their Brexit. But speculation is that we're not sure whether that will happen at all. All of that will continue to develop, and we'll keep you up to date on that. Bye, Lisa.